All right, it's 7:30. So I would like to convene the June 24th, 2025 Dartmouth Board of Public Works meeting. This meeting is being held remote. It's being recorded. The agenda was posted on June 18th. We'll take a roll call. Commissioner LaBelle,
Here.
Commissioner Gagne.
Present.
Chair is present. We have a quorum. First order of business is to approve and accept the warrants. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve and accept the warrants for the bills payable period ending June 16th and 23rd of 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item is approve and accept payrolls.
Motion to approve and accept the payrolls for the weeks ending June 7, 14, and 21 of 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle and a second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item, we have no minutes to consider. So the next item is old business update, comprehensive wastewater management plan.
We have had no updates since the last meeting. We've been quite busy around here working on other projects that have time constraints, and we're looking to get this moving soon, hopefully within the next month. We have a few more comments that we wanted to work into the comprehensive RFP. And once we have an updated version, we'll send it out for review.
Board members, we have had a chance to look at the scope and the proposed work. Do we have any other comments, or do you think the staff should send this out for bids immediately when finished?
Well, are they going to send it out, or are they going to complete it and send it back to us for review?
That's the question. Does this board want to see it again?
I think I'd like to see it again.
All right. So Tim, can you bring that back to us?
Absolutely, will do.
Yep.
One comment I have, and I'd like them to address it in the the wastewater review, is the issue of whether or not certain large residential complexes should be considered on their own package treatment facilities on premise. I think based upon some of the numbers I'm hearing as far as creation of residential units, both condominium and rental property, that there should be some analysis by the selected firm to have a determination of whether or not those locations should be looking at package treatment facilities on premise.
We did have one proposed development. It was at the Hawthorne Country Club. It wasn't a 40B at the time. It was actually a full market rate development. And they were actually looking at keeping their numbers at a certain number to be able to design a packaged private treatment facility that was feasible to them. And that that project, it didn't comply with zoning, so it didn't move forward. But now we have a 40B with double the amount of, or more than double the amount of proposed units, which is a 40B. And I think the state basically forces you allow them to tie in at some point,
Yeah,
given capacity.
I think based upon the amount of land that is available in Dartmouth, this plan will address probably, the next 2 decades. We don't know what's going to happen as far as population increases. And I think to at least have the consultants, address this issue and whether or not there may be a trigger point that would necessitate consideration for large, and I stress large, projects to be addressing the volume of material that they would be putting into our system. I think we're paying them, and I think to address this in the process, it would make sense.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, well, given the potential flow in loads, the plant isn't gonna be able to handle it in, pretty much the short term.
Yeah, and I think that issue is going to play out very, very realistically when the day comes that plant's going to need major infrastructure improvements, and I think folks are going to be very surprised at what that kind of work is going to cost.
Oh, yeah.
Board members, I agree completely. Tim, I also think that the document ought to include a discussion of some of the existing communities that are on septic systems. There are at least 3 large older developments that are on septic. Septic systems have a defined life having to do with the soil absorption capacity. And when that capacity is exceeded, there needs to be some kind of either a new area, an expansion area, or some other means to dispose of the sewerage. And I think it would be wise to look at a series of alternatives and attempt to get some of these areas to provide any past reports they might have on their own systems. And I think the idea of looking at package plants for these systems is important. It doesn't need to be done in a lot of detail, but information, estimates of flow, and simply putting those alternatives into some kind of a table so that it's clear to the residents that who look at this thing, that we've looked at the outer bounds of what might be asked of a new or expanded wastewater treatment facility. And even some of the areas that are close to the ocean or close to sensitive resources, whether it's an estuary or a river, that have older disposal systems should be acknowledged and included. And if necessary, just a simple count of the homes and compilation of the bathrooms, or I'm sorry, the bedrooms, which is the way the estimates are done in this part of the world. So I know that's more work, but I certainly agree with Mr. Gagne that we need to look out 20 years or more for the service life of the wastewater treatment facility. And I also agree very strongly that the community needs to be alerted to what this would look like if we have large areas either proposed or they have septic systems that are failing, and knock on the door and say, we want service. And if we've looked at some of the alternatives in the past and concluded whether service is reasonable or whether it's unreasonable, we need to kind of put that on the record.
Absolutely.
Tim, the last point I have is that we should specifically call out in our request that they do a deep dive into what UMass Dartmouth's plans are going forward. We ought to see they ought to review whatever the master plan is for UMass Dartmouth. I only think about my children haven't gone to UMass Amherst and where UMass Amherst was and where it is today and what the build out has been. We don't know what the future holds for UMass Dartmouth, and I think to have the consultants do a deep dive into that, that's exactly the kind of increase in capacity that could have a direct effect upon the life of whatever improvements our wastewater plant's going to have.
Absolutely. We've looked at their master plan. I know it's a few years old now. So I don't know if there's been updates, but I know, in moving forward with their master plan, they did take a number of older dormitory buildings offline, which had older fixtures and a lot of II into the system, which ended up reducing a good percentage of II when they did that. And then they brought on new, high efficiency dormitories to replace them. But I know they did plan to build in the future alumni housing as well, or graduate housing.
Yeah, the whole educational, the whole educational process and where it's going to go in the future is has the potential to change significantly, and just based on the sheer amount of land that they have available up there, it's got to be a factor that we would consider in the study.
Absolutely, I agree.
Board members, any other comments?
No, I don't.
And Rob, you had asked for a tabulation of all the multi-residential developments that have been proposed or in the works. So I did put that together since the last meeting, so I can send that out as well. It's a working document, but I can send you what we have at this moment.
Yeah, I think that's important for the board to understand what the town is looking at, and in particular, what Public Works is looking at in terms of future demand for service. All right. Thank you, Tim. We'll look for that to be circulated, and you might send that over to planning and also some of the other departments, just as a matter of collaboration.
Sure, do that.
Okay. Next on our agenda is new business, FY26 water and sewer rates. Tim?
So at the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, sorry, we had presented the presentation that was presented last year for a 10-year capital plan and at minimum a 5-year rate plan for water and sewer. And I'm gonna share that screen. All right, see that?
Yes.
So, and I know the board also had questions when I presented regarding the 10-year capital plans, and I think we're having I don't know if they're testing the fire equipment, but we seem to be having a fire alarm go off in the building. So let me put you guys on hold for a second, and so I can check this out.
Board members, if this is going to be more than a few minutes, I will ask for a recess. Do you have an idea of how long you can be available this morning?
I'm not on a limit, so I can be available whatever you need.
Okay, Ron?
I need to stop moving somewhere around 10, but I
All right.
have plenty of time.
So I would just suggest that the longest recess we might have would be until 9 o'clock. That would be the longest. So let's see what Tim has to say about what's going on there.
Sure.
Okay, so we are going to reconvene the Board of Public Works meeting for the June 24th. We took a recess so that the professional staff could deal with a fire alarm in the building, which has been cleared. This meeting is being recorded. We had completed old business. Give me a minute here. Old business A, and we were just starting out on new business A, which is approval of fiscal year 2026 water and sewer rates. So, Tim, in the interest of time,
Yes,
we did spend quite a bit of effort on this, both in a consultant's report and discussions at the board. Could you briefly review what we did and what what your recommendation is?
May I interject for a moment? Do we need a motion to reconvene?
I'm sorry. Yes, we should
Yes,
have
thank
a
you, Ron.
motion. Do I have a motion to reconvene?
Motion to reconvene the meeting?
Second,
Motion by Mr. LaBelle, second by Mr. Gagne to reconvene. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
yes,
Chair votes aye. We are formally back in session. Okay, Tim, could you, we're back on new business A, fiscal year 2026 water and sewer rates. This is for consideration to approve new rates. Tim?
yes, so last year we had gone through, we had gone through an extensive study with Weston and Sampson and the Matt Abrahams of the Abrahams Group, looking at, our capital plans moving forward, 10-year capital plans built out, looked at borrowing and debt and revenues to propose rate increases that would keep our revenues or keep our certified retained earnings at our goal of around the 15% mark. So we can continue to, fund our capital expenses, and also, work on borrowing for some of our large capital expenses and be able to afford, the pay down for the borrowing expenses for the debt. So that was back in a May 22nd meeting. The board had asked some questions regarding the capital expenditures, and so just let me go through this quickly. So this is the 2023 average residential water bill and residential sewer bill, and it put, on the water bill, it put Dartmouth about third out of the 9 communities, and for sewer, put our rates around second in the 9 communities. We move in background in FY23 rates increased by 4%, FY24 rates increased by 5%. And we decreased the minimum usage to I guess give a break to the people who use less water, where people who use more water, you know, would hit the 5% earlier. So back in all right, so here was our water capital plan overview, which we had a 5-year capital plan and a 10-year capital plan. And this build out included increases. And I know you had asked to speak with Weston Sampson and Matt Abrahams regarding those capital projects, and to ensure that increases were built and for inflation throughout the 10-year span.
So Tim, did Weston and Sampson revisit their estimates?
Yeah, so Weston and Sampson, Ben Rollins and Stephanie Collins are here from Weston and Sampson, and Matt Abrahams is here from the Abrahams Group. So Ben, are you online?
I am here. Thanks for having us, everyone.
Welcome. Welcome.
Quite the eventful morning, huh?
Yes. Yeah, we had a pump in our sewer influent and effluent operations building. There wasn't a pump, but it was a belt that smoked up and
Gotcha.
caused the alarm to go off. So District 2 Fire Department responded pretty quickly and
Good.
and got it ventilated and back in action.
Good. Glad to hear things are under control, but yeah, we'd love to answer some questions. It sounds like by revisiting our costs, you'd like a quick update on maybe how we got to these numbers in the first place and what we did to inflate them up. Does that sound like a quick summary that is of interest of this board?
Well, Ben, I think the context of the questions, if I remember correctly, was did you capture everything, and what kind of changes in those projects might have occurred, either new ones or other changes? So if you could focus on the changes, I think that would be, in the interest of time, would be the best.
Sure. Yes. So this was done. This table was created and kind of adjusted first in 2022 as part of the Water System Master Plan update. That was a review of the water quality and quantity in town. And then we did adjust this based on feedback from the Board of Public Works and the Select Board through the fiscal year 25 rate presentations. So this table here, the one we're basing our rates off of, is the 10-year capital plan. And I will note that no individual project has really we haven't looked into each individual project to update the scope of work, Commissioner Almy, but I would say one thing that I did want to note here is you see that PFAS treatment construction line, Tim, if you want it. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. So we have 250,000. That is for design in this fiscal year. And then a year or two out, excuse me, would be construction. You know, for PFAS design, we typically, in construction, we typically go out for SRF funding. So it's a bit of a longer runway as compared to just design and then go right to construction here. But great news. We recently did a PFAS evaluation with the town of Dartmouth, with Tim, with Tony here and Sandy, and the PFAS concentrations in town look good. So I'm going to stop the summary right there, just in the interest of time. So we are thinking of pushing that design and construction off for a couple of years at least, after we continue our sampling, or altogether if PFAS concentrations continue to look good. I'll stop there for questions.
I had brought up at the last meeting, when these numbers were actually put together, the economic changes that have happened since then, and some of the projects that I'm familiar with and involved with, what we have seen has been a significant increase in fiscal 24 and into fiscal 25 on project costs versus estimated costs. And
Yeah.
I don't want to diminish, the number of $2.5 million, but, the project we're seeing, $2.5 million doesn't go an awful long ways when you're talking about major capital improvements that are subject to prevailing wage law. And I just want to be sure that we give the public as accurate a numbers as possible so that we don't have spiking when the project design and then finally put out to bid.
Very understandable. So I'll note just real quick. So these numbers, they were based on the 2022 report that we submitted to work with Tim and his team and back in December of 2022. And we used an ENR, which that stands for an Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index. That was for December, or it might have been even November of 2022. And we did see those major inflation, through COVID as well. So we saw those major inflation spikes through COVID. And we reviewed the Boston construction cost indices and inflated these costs up accordingly.
When did you inflate them up? What time frame?
So that's a great question. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what we did, and that's a great question, what we did was we had the November 2022 numbers, and we used that ENR. I forget the exact number. If I'm being honest, it's like 15,000 or something like that. And then we picked the July of each fiscal year. So for example, we chose, I'll talk about the raw water main improvements at 299, for example, the line that Tim's cursor is on there. So we chose the July of fiscal year 29. So that's July of 28. And we used the ENR value of that month, July of 28, which I'm going to throw a number out there for random. It's 20,000. So we would use the ratio of 20,000 over 15,000 to ratio our costs up to account for inflation and increasing costs.
So, excuse me, this is Matt Abrahams from the Abrahams Group. So the result of that particular example that was just provided, the numbers that were in the 2022 report have been inflated by about 24% to the number that you see there.
Thank you.
That one particular example, it depends on when the year is being shown, because, as you go out year over year, it gets inflated a little bit further. So you're not going to see 24% across all the numbers. It depends on which column it falls in. Does that make sense?
And if you don't mind, I'll add one. Well, yeah, thanks, Matt.
Okay.
Is there any questions on that before I add one final comment? Okay. I'll add that I recall now that the PFAS treatment was somewhat of an add-on late in the game for these fiscal year 25 rate updates, because the new EPA regulation had dropped. That was kind of a bit of a surprise. We knew it was coming in the general time vicinity, but that was also a bit of a surprise. So that 250,000 and that 2.5 million was kind of added in late in the game of last year's rate improvement studies. And I will note, like I said before, the PFAS, the emerging contaminants, typically do get covered under SRF. They are favorable projects under SRF, and specifically for potentially principal loan forgiveness in the future.
Thank you.
Board
Okay.
members,
Great questions.
any other questions? Right, so Tim, we have two things that we need to take action on. One is the water rates, and the second is the sewer rates. Do you want to make a recommendation to us for the water rates?
Yes, so last year the board favored, so we had two options, an 8.75 annual increase from FY 25 to 29. And then we had option two, which is 7.5% annual increase through FY 31. And the board favored, and I believe I recommended the 7.5 annual increase last year. So I recommend maintaining that increase.
Which, to be clear, is you're recommending that we increase the water rates for those served by the town of Dartmouth system this year, an increase of 7.5%.
For FY 26.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion?
What does, just one quick question, what does, I mean, New Bedford has just recently raised their water rates, correct?
Yes, yes,
Is
so
that-
New Bedford has approved an 8.6% increase in usage rates. With an 8.5 increase in base rates and in meter rentals.
And Tim, would that be a second motion?
That would, yes, for
Right, so we have to discuss and consider a motion for the rates for people in the town of Dartmouth that are served by the New Bedford system.
Okay, well, I guess I'll make a motion to raise the rates, 7.5% annual increase through FY 31.
Okay, for town residents that are served by the town's water system.
As stipulated.
All right, Mr. LaBelle has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
Mr. Gagne has seconded. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye,
Mr. Gagne?
yes,
Chair votes aye. Motion is passed. The second thing we need to see a motion on is potential increase for base rates and meter rentals for those within the town of Dartmouth that are served by New Bedford water. Tim, what's your recommendation there?
So I recommend an 8.6% increase on all New Bedford accounts, New Bedford water accounts that are served through Dartmouth for FY 26 to equal what New Bedford has increased.
Do I have a motion on that?
motion to increase the rates to New Bedford's use of our water of 8.6% through 2026. Is that what,
Yes, FY 26.
FY 26?
Yeah.
All right, so this is usage rates, base rates and meter rentals. Tim, is that clear?
That is clear.
Thank
All
you.
right, do I have a second?
second,
I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle and a second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye,
Mr. Gagne?
yes,
Chair votes yes, item is approved. All right, Tim, the next item has to do with sewer rates.
Yes. So back in FY 23, sewer rates were increased by 9%, and at FY 24, sewer rates were increased by 5%. Moving towards the sewer capital plan. So we didn't have as vast a capital plan, but we do have the impending infrastructure improvements here for the wastewater treatment plant that we had forecasted out to FY 28. That may move in the future. I can say with a lot of these large multi-unit developments coming online with the increase in flows, BOD, sludge, there's a lot of increases coming in, which eventually I think it's going to push our 80% capacity a lot sooner than we had expected. So like I said, that, you know, that may eventually increase the rates to the users at, I think, a lot quicker. But in FY 25 last year, the board chose option 3 out of the 3 options. There was a 10-year rate plan with a one-time increase. And then we had option 2 was a 10% for the first 5 years, and then 2.5% thereafter. And then option 3 was an 8.5% increase, approximately for the first 6 years. And then once we build that capital and we can, you know, work with our design and construction on the plant, we can look at reducing that rate back down, which was estimated at that time to 4% after the first 6 years, once we review our revenues and our retained earnings. So I'm recommending to maintain that option 3 at 8.5% for FY 26 for sewer increase for Dartmouth accounts and Dartmouth users.
Board members, any questions?
Just to FY 26?
Yes, yep. We will come back, you know, we come back every year to discuss, even,
Yep.
you know, if we choose an option 3, which shows it for 6 years, you know, things change. Like I said, like, especially we get a lot of these large developments with large flows, it may change our timeline. So we definitely revisit this every year. So
It
just
will.
through FY 26.
Right.
I'm all set, Rob.
All right, if there are no more questions, do I have a motion?
Yeah, motion to increase the rates to 8.5% up until in FY 2026. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, item is approved. Last part of this, it has to do with those folks who live in Dartmouth, billed by Dartmouth, but are paying New Bedford sewer accounts through the town.
Yep.
Tim?
So New Bedford was approved to increase their sewer rates by the CPI, the Consumer Pricing Index, which was at 3%. So they only increased their sewer rate for 3%. So we would recommend increasing their sewer rate by 3% as well.
And these revenues go directly to the town, to the city of New Bedford?
Yeah, so basically we bill, we bill the consumer, and then throughout the year, the city of New Bedford will bill us for the usage, and then we pay that bill, I think, quarterly.
All right. All right, board members, any questions? Do I have a motion?
I'm not quite sure how to word this.
So I recommend increasing the sewer rate for New Bedford users by 3% for FY 26.
Okay, motion to approve the sewer rates to New Bedford to 3% for fiscal 2026.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. LaBelle, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, item is approved. Next item is item new business B, Weston Sampson Cross Connections Agreement. Tim?
Rob, before we
Yeah.
leave our water and sewer rates, I'm wondering, since the local newspaper did an article on this last year and did not contain the significant content that this presentation contained relative to what capital items we have to be addressed, which warrant these rate increases. I would ask that, since they will do another article, that the MIS folks would set up a link that could include a web address so that folks could come and look at this particular presentation. And I would ask that the dates be updated to more current than a year ago on the document, so that folks can come and they can go and look and see the reasons why and what the need will be in the future that will be funded through these rates, through the retained earnings. I think a shortage of information in an article only makes the situation and the perception of the public less informed. And I think to get all that information out there, we'd be better off and people would understand better.
Right, so if I understand correctly, you're asking Weston Sampson to update the dates on the presentation that we use today to reflect that that presentation was made today. I don't recall there was a discussion of any other changes. So the date in the upper right-hand corner would reflect today's date. And then we would then inform and request, we'd provide that document to Dartmouth Week and ask them to provide a link to where that document's posted. Is that correct?
Well,
Yes, actually, the link will be set up by Mike Corvo at the MIS department in Town Hall. And they
Yes,
put that web address in the article with a direct, they can do a direct click on.
yeah, so we would post this on the website, and then like our IT would then set up a link and we can post that link so people can connect to that.
From the article. From the article.
From the
from
article.
the article.
From the article.
Yep. Okay, so I'll presume that Dartmouth Week will review, has either heard this request or when they review the item, they'll pick it up. And if there are any questions, then people at Dartmouth Week can call you, Tim, or one of your staff members.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Thank
I think that's a very good suggestion. Thank you, Mike, on this item. Thank you, Ben and Matt. We appreciate you, your patience this morning.
Thank you all.
And also thank you, Stephanie, for joining us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
oh, there, yeah. I had my page reduced, Stephanie. I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Bye
Thank
all.
you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Okay, so the next item is Weston Sampson Cross Connections Agreement. Tim?
Yes. So last year we contracted with Weston Sampson for the sum of $89,679 for a cross connection, which included 1,334 tests and at $59.40 per test, with 60 hours built in for surveys at $130 an hour, and then $220 per month for a design data sheet review. This year, the number of tests has increased due to the number of cross connection devices in town to 1,378, which increased the cost, and they also increased their cost by 2.7%, which is definitely reasonable, to $61 per test. The hourly cost of surveys and the estimated hours of 60 hours remains the same at $130 per hour, as the $220 per month for the design data sheet review as well. So we're planning to, eventually work back to doing this in-house eventually, if we can get there. We had a couple of our water department staff get certified for backhaul and cross connections, and in the future we do plan to move that direction. But so the current but the current cost for this year's contract is $94,498.
Board members, any questions?
So Tim, when you refer to a cross connection, is that in the sewer?
Nope, that's on the water. So that's any so a cross connection could be a commercial dishwasher with a soap dispenser in a restaurant where it's required that they have a backflow prevention device that needs to be tested and then surveys are done. So that you know they go to any facilities in Dartmouth that require backflow devices on the water to avoid contamination across connections.
So this is a job that Mike Rodricks used to do.
That is, yes.
Okay.
While we charge accordingly for the costs, so what we expend, we see back in revenue.
Thank you.
But like since Mike Rodricks retired, we didn't have anybody certified for cross connections.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just out of curiosity, how many did we find?
That's a good question. And I don't think it's as much as a fine, but they do get non-compliance letters to reach out to both the department and to Weston and Sampson to come into compliance.
But how many did we actually identify?
Oh, fine, identify. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Tony, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
Do you have the latest report from?
I
Weston
don't have the
Sampson?
latest report for that, no.
Okay, could you get back to us at our next meeting, Tim?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, great. Thank you. Ron or Mike, any other questions?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the contract with Weston and Sampson for cross connection agreement at the value of $94,498.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. LaBelle for approval, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, item is approved. Next item is a recommendation regarding recycled goods. And it looks like you're asking us to adopt a new policy for the Public Works Department. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes. So,
Could you-
oh, 1 second. So the policy in your packets was actually, it's requested through the district when we work through the district, the Greater New Bedford Refuge Regional Refuge Management District. Every year DEP changes how they handle RDP points for programs that we offer. And this program, this policy is included in a reuse program. So if we have one reuse program in town, then we can be awarded 1 point, which is equal to $1,800. If we have 3 programs in town for reuse of goods, recycled goods, then we are awarded two points and with a value of $3,600. So we're trying to get to that 2 points for the 3 programs, and we work with the library to have a library of things, and with our program, and I think they're working on a community yard sale through the district. So they're trying to build up that number so we can actually get these extra points and extra dollars that we can put towards our recycle program. This policy, as shown, basically, it's more geared towards furniture and that type of goods, not vehicles and large equipment. So we would look at eligible recipients. Mostly, first, these goods would be, say I had a file cabinet that we weren't using, we would offer this to the municipal departments in town to see if anybody else needed it, or the school system, see if anybody needed it. And then we go out, you know, to nonprofit and other community organizations in the town that take these goods, that can recycle them and put them for reuse, rather than scrapping them and throwing them either in the dumpster or into the recycled metal bin. There's a process that's outlined that departments must first offer the surplus property to other municipal departments, and then once, if no departments need the goods, then it should be offered to the eligible recipients per MGL. And we also put up a public notice. It typically gets voted on by a board. So the approval of this process, we would submit this to the state as part of our reuse program.
Tim, I noticed at the transfer station where the metals are dropped off that they have a reuse and recycle bicycles, which I think is a great idea, because
Yes,
I've
yes,
been a number of times that I see very good bicycles that end up getting flattened as they compact the material in there. I think
absolutely.
if we were able to provide them maybe a little better rack to put the bicycles in, they're going to be reused. We could certainly qualify for that as one of the items, since, you know, we provide a better rack than that rickety woody thing that's there.
Yeah, absolutely. We can look into that.
Any other questions on this item?
This is just municipal property?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we don't currently have, say, like a reusable center where somebody's manning the center and people can drop off, and then other residents can come and pick up those items. We don't have that program but you know, that is allowed and I recommend it throughout the Commonwealth. But you know, we're not at that step yet, because that takes quite a bit of, you know, it takes more man hours that needs to be manned while the transfer station is open, and you know, and there's a little more liability for that as well.
Yeah, well, one man's junk.
There's another treasure, right? Yeah.
All right, any other questions, board members? Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve the Public Works policy on a donation of surplus municipal property.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, item is approved. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Next item is a sewer abatement request. I believe we discussed this at a past meeting. Is that right, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, so can you review where we are in this?
All right. So I had also forwarded the link to the resident, but let me. So I'll give you a little history. This property was, I guess it was going through some rehabilitation. The new property owners had purchased it and they were doing some work. And at one point, our senior engineer was out inspecting a new driveway apron with a right-of-way permit at the property, and looked inside the metal hatch, which was an updated meter pit hatch, and he witnessed a leak, and then, you know, reached out to the water department and I believe the property owners to inform them that there was a leak on the property. The property owners, you know, took quick action. They had somebody out there the next day and repaired the leak. If you go through the usage, it's very consistent with a leak. I think the water was turned on in 2024, November of 2024, and it leaked right through the April. I think April 4th was when the leak was fixed, and you can see the usage drop right off. They also had submitted a bill from their plumber who did the work to repair the leak outside. So while the water did go through the meter, it did not enter the sewer system. So through their abatement request, we looked at the last 4 billing cycles and averaged the sewer bill. So their average sewer bill is $180.62. And so their sewer bill, based on the usage from the leak, was in total $977.21. The total bill, including water and sewer, was $2,310.07. Since the water did go through the meter, we don't typically abate the water, but of the $977.21, subtract the average bill of $180.62, comes up with a value of $796.59 that we recommend abating from the sewer, since the water did not enter the sewer system.
Board members, any questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve a sewer rebate of $799.60.
Second.
Tim,
That was
is that the correct number?
No, the correct number is $796.59.
And 59 cents, that is correct.
$796.59.
Thank you.
Second, the corrected motion.
So is the motion corrected?
Yes.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Mr. LaBelle, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Okay, next item is, looks like item E. Tim, you want to continue that to the next scheduled meeting?
Yeah, so I had added this item to the agenda after I received, a call and a request of a moratorium waiver for a new driveway on the street that had been reconstructed, but the applicant did not formally submit. They requested the meeting date, so I gave them this date, and then I said we would have other meetings scheduled in July, so they didn't submit formally for this meeting, so I would table this until the next meeting.
All right. Tim, we don't need a motion for that. We'll just continue it.
Okay.
All right. Next is item F. Water pollution control pretreatment SCADA system.
Yeah, so in your packets, you have the agreement with Woodard and Curran. It proposed 2 phases of SCADA improvement. This is only for the pre-treatment SCADA, and this agreement includes a demo of the existing PLC and control panel and equipment, and the installation of new Allen Bradley PLC and control panel, including new conduit and wiring, as well as adding the updated SCADA programming for existing points. And like I said, only for the pre-treatment. And this project is funded through existing capital improvement articles, and the total cost of the agreement is $72,800.
Board members, any questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the SCADA improvement contract valued at $72,800.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle and a second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item on the agenda is committee updates. Does anyone have any committee updates? I have none.
I have none.
I have none.
So,
All right, director update, Tim?
So, quick update on personnel vacancies. We have hired, administrative assistant, who should be starting on July 1st. So, we'll be working on training her and getting her up to speed on all the duties of that position and meeting everybody. So that'd be great to have somebody back on board. Second, we hired a new associate engineer, Alex Lustigman, who started in the engineering division yesterday on the 23rd. So same thing, he's going through the training and learning curve. Then we've been interviewing utility billing clerks for the utility billing clerk over at the water division. And they have a couple more interviews, final interviews, I believe, scheduled for this week. And then they'll make a decision to move forward with one of the candidates, hopefully. Currently, I believe we're still down about 13 altogether, but we did have some other applicants for driver applicants and operator license operator applicants as well. So we'll be looking at those and hopefully set up some interviews moving forward. The new human resources director has started at the beginning of the month, and we've been working with her, and she's interested in attending some of these interviews as well, and coming on board and seeing our process and helping with the selection process as well, which is good.
Tim,
Board members, any
the
questions?
operator interviews, are they water or wastewater or both?
That's heavy equipment, special equipment operator.
Okay, so.
But we're currently fully staffed.
That would be like an SMEO?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
so our HMEOs are CDL drivers, and then our SMEOs are CDL and hoisting license. So we've had a
Gotcha.
few more applicants apply, so we'll see if we can work with them.
So water and wastewater are fully staffed
Yes,
as far as operators?
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim, do you have a master list of the names of people that work for the DPW in their position? I just feel a little awkward sometimes when, like, I walk into the administration building and I don't know who it is I'm talking to, and just would be helpful as a new member.
Sure. I can make that happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe there's been enough changes, Tim, you could provide that to all three board members.
I can.
Thank you. Any other questions on personnel items?
And we also have the organizational charts.
Yeah, I'd like that.
I have a master organizational chart, and I can add the names to that chart as
Yeah.
well.
I'd like that, yeah.
And then, Tim, what is the status of the contract negotiations?
So I think all the unions, I think except for police and schools, agreed to a bridge. So the DPW unions agreed to a bridge with a 3% increase for FY26 to allow them to enter into negotiations, but they wanted to wait because of the proposed the classification and compensation study has not taken place yet. So they wanted to get that well underway and decided upon before they negotiated with the unions. So I believe they had rebid the classification and compensation study, and I believe they have a candidate they're working with negotiating an agreement contract with to move forward with that study. So I think at this time next year, we'll either be looking at, we're still working on the study, or hopefully at that time working on finalizing negotiations with the unions for a new contract.
Okay,
Yes, Tim, you're correct. On June 13th, I received a email from Chris, and he said the award letter is out, and he has already heard back from the consultant about coordinating the next steps.
That's Derek Martin. He's also the president of the Steelworkers, the United Steelworkers Union.
Okay. One other personnel item, Tim, when does your contract go to the select board?
It's, I had asked, and I spoke with the acting town administrator who was working to get it on the agenda for the 30th, June 30th. But they had asked to send it to town council first for a review. So I sent it to the acting town administrator and town council for review. I haven't heard back yet.
All right. We had discussed having at least one board member attend that meeting. And I
Yes.
think, if I remember correctly, Ron, you had offered to do that.
I'm waiting to hear from Tim on a timeline. I'm sorry.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay,
But I'll reach out to the acting town administrator this morning, see if has any updates on that.
yeah, it'd be good to complete that process.
Yeah, Tim, keep me in that loop because I have family coming up from down south and they're gonna be here for about 4 weeks.
All right,
So my schedule's gonna get tight.
sure. Well, we're hoping on June 30th, Monday at 6:30 in the select board room. Unless they meet earlier for executive session. So I'll definitely keep you updated.
Thank you.
All right, Tim, you had another item?
So we have just an update on the online permitting. I had brought a number of DPW permits that we were working to submit to the software staff in town to work on getting a lot of our DPW permits available online. Currently, we have the right-of-way permit that's available online. That's the only DPW permit other than the one-day permits, which are more, go multi-jurisdictional. So we worked with a number of those permits, and Chad has been working on bringing those onto the portal. So he came over and we sampled some of the permitting and edited some of the items on the permitting, and he's working to get those close to live, so we can go live with those soon. So I asked him once he gets them close that we do a sample run on all of them to make sure they work properly. And this would be good to get it on because when you go onto the online portal, and you go to different permitting, a building permit, obviously you're going to go into the building department but you don't see all the utility permits or anything else that's required. And we're not seeing as many of the permits that are going through the town right now. We seem to be somewhat restricted for some of the permitting. So I think bringing these online will help when residents or property owners go into see the permits. They can go into the DPW permitting portal and see all the permits that are required.
Tim, who's Chad's boss?
I would say the town administrator and the select board.
All right. So my concern is that the system be set up so there's no green lighting of building permits until all of the other permits, especially some of the public works permits, have been issued. And I know that's been an issue, been something that's been problematic in the past,
Yeah.
and this is the time to fix that.
So in speaking with Chad and regarding the software, the Viewpoint software that we use, I guess the colors of the approval process are set in that software. So if it's on hold, it's yellow. If it's stopped, it's red. If it's approved, it's green. So I'm not sure if the colors could be adjusted, but there may be some kind of notification process that, you know, once a permit is approved through an agency like the building department, that they can be notified that, you know, that there are other agencies that also require permitting, and that this approval does not include approvals from any other agencies.
Yeah, it seems to me that there are two places where that's relevant. One is upfront. So,
Upfront, definitely.
so when somebody starts, they get a complete list of what they need to accomplish. And then the second is that whatever they think is the permit that lets them move forward is somehow held until everything else is that needs to be taken care of has been taken care of. Right? Because too often it seems to me I hear you expressing concern about your guys going out after the fact and the landowner giving you the palms up and shrugging his shoulders and say, hey, I was given a building permit.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the way it ought to work. So,
Yeah, with the restriction of viewing a lot of these permits, we seem to be, you know, enforcing more than notifying. So I think I'd rather be notifying residents and property owners of the requirements rather than enforcing what they didn't do because they weren't properly notified when they were giving a specific permit.
exactly. Okay, board members, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, are there any other issues that the board wishes to discuss today?
Can I bring up one matter? This past Sunday, I had the opportunity to attend the dedication of the memorial bench for Bill Mosier at Town Hall. And I always think a little bit of history is important for our community and recollecting what may have happened in the past. Bill was instrumental, along with then State Representative Roger Tugas and State Senator Biff McLean, in going to meet with the Division of Capital Assets and Management in Boston when Sheriff Dabrowski was proposing to build the new Bristol County Correctional Facility on Fons Corner Road. And Bill, as treasurer, along with the representative and the state senator, was successful in negotiating that DCPO would pay the full cost of extension of a sewer line to that jail facility, but also the improvements that the wastewater facility had in their last round of improvements. And I believe it was well over $20 million. And, you know, many people don't remember that. And many of the people that were involved back then are still around. But it's individuals with the foresight that they had that the ratepayers did not have to foot the bill for the improvements that were done to the wastewater facility.
Well said. I agree.
So this is kind of an interesting question. Is there any kind of informational item or plaque or anything near the bench? I mean, it's one thing to sit down and say, okay, this is nice that, you know, somebody donated, or this is in memory of someone. But I find it really helpful to have a little bit more information. And, you know, whatever history wants to say about the individual, it seems to me that's the essence of what gets preserved. So maybe that's something we could talk to either the member of the select board or the town administrator about, and just have a conversation. Mike, you've been around the town for a while. What do you think would be the right? I mean, there's a historical society, and you know, they should know all this stuff hands down. But I think helping to boil somebody's service to the town to an easy to read summary would be something that could go with a bench or a plaque or something like that.
I think, there have been a significant number of individuals that have had great foresight in the past in their positions that they have served, and might be more of the discussion. As important as historical buildings are, it's just as important to chronicle the historical figures who have shaped the town. And I'd be more than happy to go sit with the next meeting of the Historical Commission and see if we can generate some energy, and maybe some folks in town would be willing to take on that project. Even chronicling the stuff with the folks at DCTV, which they had been doing many years ago. We can do something, along those lines. But I think that's a great idea, Rob, because I think of all the different individuals over the years that served on the Board of Public Works, served on many boards and commissions. Many of them were very instrumental and very smart in doing what they did. And I think it's preserving a little of the history of the community and the people that have served, that'll help others to step up and think about serving also. So I'd be more than happy if the board's okay with it, see if I can get on the Historical Commission's agenda.
And the town has done this in the past. I mean, Tim, you guys worked with, I don't know which volunteer group it was, but about the signs, and the last one you put up was over at the old amusement park. And that system of signs, we have one out near where we live for Round Hill. Continuing that, but also having a discussion about people, because the people really are what makes the town. So
Right, that was for the Heritage Trail. Yep.
right.
One of the things that I've been seeing, I was actually visiting a couple of museums in New York, and we might be able to do something along the lines of one of those QR codes, so that you don't put a lot of information out, but somebody can click the QR code and they can get the historical background on the individual. Could be a good community preservation project.
Sure.
That's a good idea. All right. Yeah, let us know what you find,
Sure.
Mike.
All right. Thank you.
Any other items, board members?
No.
Tim,
Mr.
anything
Chairman.
else that we should know?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the lines of QR codes, the water consumer confidence report cards have gone out with the QR code, which bring you to a link you can click on to look at the report online. So rather than sending out the full report, we send out the cards with the QR code and links, which seems to work pretty well. Let's see, a couple of projects updates. We have advertised the Route 6 and Ellswick sewer pump station upgrade project for bid, to move forward with increasing the capacity in the collection system and pump stations to allow for the preserved 40B, the 288 multi-unit development to be able to discharge sewer into our system. The filed sub bids on that project are due July 11th, and then the general bid opening is scheduled for August 1st.
Any questions on that, Mike?
Secondly, we've been working with Assistant Town Administrator Chris Vitale. He's been working on a grant submittal for this round of MVP grants. This year's this round, we looked at projects up north Route 6, and we worked on a number of projects, and I think we narrowed it down to 2 projects that we're interested in. One is the upgrade of the Cornell Pond Dam, which is you know, has been deficient over a few years, and look at upgrading the dams over there at the pond, as well as the second project was some resiliency for our Fons Connor Road pump station that's along the Pascomance River. So adding some resiliency to that pump station property for sea level rise and climate change would be a good project up north. So those are the two projects that we're working on submitted.
Anything else, Tim?
We had also, I think I had updated the board, past that we had submitted for a grant for our water pollution control aeration upgrade, through the MassWorks one-stop grant process. So that was successfully submitted. So we're waiting, patiently to hear back on that grant submittal. And that's about it.
Okay. Tim, I mentioned to you, a while back that I'd had a conversation with some of the folks at the landfill about what it would look like if there was a significant natural disaster in the area, particularly a major hurricane. And one of the items we discussed was having some kind of an area or a number of areas in the town that are designated for temporary disposal of debris until it can get sorted and handled in a way to minimize the actual need to bury material at the landfill. The concern is that one large hurricane could basically fill up the existing capacity. And so having a place where, for example, trees and brush can be temporarily stored and possibly chipped or made into something besides material that goes into the landfill. That's just one example, would be helpful.
Yeah.
And so if you could maybe figure out who in the town would be involved in that kind of a discussion, emergency services, perhaps planning and conservation. And just begin the conversation, and see what the steps might be and who would be involved. But I think it would be smart to give some thought to that.
And Mr. Gagne and I have begun that conversation, and I think with the vast size of the town and the length of the town, we need to look at multiple locations,
Right.
because north to south is a lot of miles. So I think we need multiple sites to be able to function efficiently. So we're going to look at some land use plans and town-owned property and see what the best fit would be for different areas of town.
Does
Okay,
the district
thank
have a
you.
tub grinder?
Not sure. Do you know, Mike, if the district has a sub grinder?
Yeah,
They don't.
I know they have a compost site, but I don't think they grind anything.
When we had Hurricane Bob, we ended up leasing a tub mill grinder because of the nature of the material. We didn't want to overwhelm the one we had at the wastewater plant.
Yeah. I think probably for that, it's probably best to lease, equipment at that time, since you're not using it constantly, and I know ours has some issues, and that would definitely, I think.
You
Compromise.
can actually do a lease agreement for the need as purpose. I forget what community I was talking with them about this, so that you get and you have preference for the use of the equipment in the event of a disaster, because what happens is all the communities run to it, and I don't know what the logistics are, but if you talk to like Southworth and Schmidt and those, you might be able to get more information on that. And certainly chippers and tub mill grinders were the big need we had with Hurricane Bob.
And Mike, in your experience, is that something that we could enter into an agreement with, say, Westport on and have if we don't need that piece of equipment 100% of the time, we could have some kind of an agreement to lease that equipment during the emergency, so we're not competing with the other towns around. Maybe we have an agreement where the towns have agreed to lease 2 of them. So again, we're not competing.
So kind of a regional agreement.
Yeah. Mhm.
They're actually, and I believe it was in Governor, I'm drawing a blank on which governor it was, but there's actually in the Municipal Modernization Act, there's a particular provision that I don't know if Dartmouth adopted, but enables these intermunicipal agreements for use of equipment.
I thought they did, Mr. Gagnon.
Yeah.
I thought that was signed a few years back. I think when Dave was here, the intermunicipal agreement with the other communities around with the state.
Good.
I think this have to be looked up.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it can go beyond that too. I mean, you could agree with other towns that have similar water systems to have a single stockpile of valves and piping and the kinds of stuff that you need from time to time, so you don't have to buy as much and keep it in your own yard.
Correct. Definitely.
So
Yeah, that makes it a little difficult because you've got different communities that run different specs. So New Bedford runs a different spec than Dartmouth. Westport don't have a water system. They take water from Fall River. They just start and Fairhaven has a water system. Where are you going to stage it? Who's going to be the investor? In natural hurricanes, and you have a hurricane, it affects doesn't really affect the infrastructure underground. It overwhelms the sewer system, wires, drainage system, but stuff like that. It's not cost effective to go to an agreement with other communities. As I said, everybody's spec is different.
yeah, it's a matter of knowing what other districts actually have, so that you are able to ask if someone has a certain pump or a certain valve or something that you need while you have while you wait for an order to go through and something to be delivered. But all right, it's just it's a thought. All right, Tim, anything else for us?
That is it for now.
All right.
And Mr. Chairman, can I say something before we go? I know everybody's aware there's extreme heat conditions out there right now, and it's something that's been bothering me for the years I've worked here. I actually would have made a logical sense for me to get my guys out there earlier this morning, but I have to wait till 7 because we work from 7 to 3:30. I'd like to make suggestions, especially in the summer months, like mid-July to end of August, of going to our summer hours here from 6 to 2:30. Get a jump on the heat on these guys. Like right now, yesterday was brutal. I put extra pickers right now on the Packers, so we get help to these guys. They're gonna get beat up, and I'm hoping to get them in tomorrow because the 2 days of being on that heat, I don't know. And tomorrow's gonna be brutal during the day too. Just wonder what the board thinks about looking into some summer hours.
Tim, I don't have any trouble with that as long as it's not an issue with the unions. And I think you could probably set this up so it's the field crews plus whatever administration needs to be available to them. So it's the people who are basically outside working in the heat.
Correct.
So if you want to bring that back to us, I certainly don't have any trouble with it, and I'm gonna guess the other board members would like a chance to think about that and possibly make that change.
Yeah, and we would have to schedule that, with the community as well, and notify the community that solid waste and recycling pickup would start an hour early.
Yeah, that's the only reason I didn't do it, because we got to give notification. I get up this morning, I'm an early riser. And as soon as I get out early, I was just like, it's been eating at me right now, having those guys out there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
All right, yep, I'm, again, bring it back to us. I think the answer is whatever makes sense. But we, you know, we need to put it into a meeting and we need to have you guys take care of whatever the details are, so whatever the board approves can be implemented.
Absolutely.
We'll work on it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Mr. Chairman, when I was talking to Paul this morning, he mentioned it. I kind of looked at a few different stuff as well. And we were thinking maybe we could do some sort of a trial run this year, going through. And as far as the unions, I know that you have the rights of management. So you know, you can promote, hire, transfer, assign, retain, discipline. You have the right to run the department the way you see fit. The unions don't necessarily run the departments. We run the departments, and then according to everything. So we would definitely want to speak to unions and let them know what we were thinking. But essentially, it's your decision.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. So maybe we could do it on a trial. We could chest in so we could, base forward. But you'll get a lot more out of the production from 6 to 7 than 2:30 to 3:30 when these guys are starting to really load. And like Mr. Pacheco said, it's not the initial one day. It's, over and over. So I think with our field crew, it kind of takes with the Department of Services and Infrastructure as the biggest guys that are in the heat all day long.
Derek,
and
would you foresee any problem with the union if we took this action?
No, I don't, not at all. I think.
Because I mean, common sense goes a long way, and it's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Pacheco and you guys as well. I mean, I think a lot of communities down south, they do it as well. And I think the heat, like Mr. Gagne said, you're up to Maine getting 100 now. So it is base. So being a few steps ahead of it as a board and as production, I think it's, a great idea, and I think it'll be very.
Yeah. I mean, this heat's gonna be dangerous for a lot of people.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, Tim, you bring that back to us, and listen, if you want, if it turns out to be a serious enough problem, it's early in the summer. I'm amenable to a special meeting to consider this if in fact you think it can be done, and it looks like we're going to see this kind of heat on and off from now on. I mean, it's going to be a brutal week, and it's early yet, so.
Yeah, so we'll work with town administrator, human resources, and the unions on this as well, and then I can bring it back whether we need an early meeting, a special meeting, or a next meeting.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Paul, I'm glad you raised that. Thank you.
But Mr. Chairman, one last item, I was pleased to see that the Capital Planning Committee had put out their long-range capital plan for public comment. The newspaper picked it up. I would like our board to send a letter to the Capital Planning Committee and ask them to include in the plan, the final plan, the issue that we discussed at the previous meeting, and that is that road improvements with the Chapter 90 funds and limited funds that the town has available from retained earnings, that the roads, sidewalks, and the handicap accessibility on sidewalks be included with the plan. I know there's certain priorities, and I'm not raising an issue of where it should be prioritized, but I think that at least our knowledge that road improvements cannot get fully funded by what sources we have existing, and that sidewalks are needed in many areas, and most importantly, handicap accessibility on sidewalks are priority needs of a public works department, and at least get it in the document. Thank you.
Yeah, Tim, could you provide something to me, and I sit on that committee, so I'll be happy to carry that in and advocate for it.
Absolutely.
I'd like the board, I know it's not in the post, it's not an agenda item, but at least if we get that in, you know, Rob, and then at the next meeting, we would vote to approve and send the letter to back it up. We'll have the documentation. We got some significant cost here, and it should be in a long-range capital plan.
All right. Okay. Tim,
Absolutely.
you
We can
put
work on
that
that.
together for me. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I'll look to the calendar and see if I can figure out when our next meeting is. I don't have that right in front of me. All right.
All right, so when we look at scheduling tentatively for our next meeting, we have there's actually 5 Thursdays in July. We usually go about the 3rd Thursday. So does anybody have any problems with either July 17th or the 24th at this time?
The only thing, Tim, I gotta check is I serve on the refuse district, and they meet on Thursdays, but I'm gonna have to check which of those Thursdays they're on for, because they meet at 8 o'clock in the morning too.
Right?
So, I'll check and I'll get back to you on that, which
Okay.
one you're gonna have.
All right, and then we'll send we'll send an email out requesting availability as well, once I get that back from you.
Thank you.
I'm fine on both those dates.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
I
I'll
have a
second
motion
that.
to adjourn. I have a motion from Mr. Gagne, second from Mr. LaBelle. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time. I deeply appreciate it.